Who would want to?
Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert.
Hey.
Welcome back to the TED Show. We're with one of my favorite human beings on the planet, the one and only stellar life coaching goddess guru, Kendra Davies. Welcome, Kendra. How you doing today?
I'm so good, darling. How are you?
I am also so good. I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm breathing. I'm above ground. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
That's kind of the minimum requirements for being okay.
Right now,
you know
yes.
what I mean? Breathing above ground. Excellent.
I'm above ground. You know, you got it. It's Gratitude Tuesday on the TED Show, so we do a lot of thank you. So I have been focusing on the things I'm grateful instead of the things that make me want to scream today.
That's an excellent choice, sir. I support that choice.
All right, but enough about me. This show is about you, and I'll talk it out. And I love this topic, separating what we do from who we are. I can't wait to take a deep dive. But before we do, the people who have been under a rock need to know a little bit about Kendra Davies and Stellar Life Coaching.
Sure. So my name is Kendra Davies. I am a positive psychology practitioner and a life coach. I own Stellar Life Coaching here in Orlando, Florida. And I work with individuals, couples, executives, and businesses to identify, define, and cultivate their own happiness. And my shtick is that I want to transform the way we live, love, and do business using this powerful science of positive psychology.
Woo! You have that.
You like that?
It's so good the way you do it. See, I'm terrible.
Nailed it.
You nailed it. You are so good. You've got it. And it doesn't even sound like you memorized it. It just sounds like it's all coming from the heart, which I know it is. All right. So this topic, we talk every week, always have a great time. But this topic is so cool because I think a lot of people don't know how to do what we're talking about doing. So people identify what they do with who they are. And a lot of times that causes, well, I'm going to let you handle that whole part. But explain why you picked this topic, and let's take a deep dive.
So for anybody who works with me, language is always really, really important. It's usually the language that my clients use to tell me about their lives and about how they feel and what they're going through often give me a lot of information, way more than what they're actually saying. And one of the most powerful statements that we can use are the words I am, right? Yes. So I am sad. I am a liar. I am a thief. I am a cheat. I am whatever, fill in the blank, right? We can fill that in with disease. We can fill that in with disorder. But essentially, with this language, we identify something that we are. It implies that it is fixed and unchangeable, right? So this idea of it's not who you are, it's what you have done. It's not who you are, it's what you think. It's not who you are, it's what you feel. And being able to create some separation takes out the shame and the guilt of the doing the work, right? Yes. Taking responsibility for the things that we've done in the past. I've been really thinking about how to create the message of like, sometimes you were the problem. I've been seeing these kinds of memes around, and I feel like it's really important. And I want to be able to have the conversation. And one of the things that I think we do to ourselves is we are not mindful of our language. And when I wake up every day and I'm saying, I am fat, I am ugly, I am not smart enough, I am incapable, right?
Yes.
Then what I'm ultimately doing is setting the stage for what's in my head. And we have talked about something called the Tetris effect before, which is something, whatever we think about the most in our heads is what we see out in the world around us, right? An example, a real simple example would be like, if you were to buy a new car and you were to get a blue Prius, what do you see everywhere?
Everywhere you're going to see the blue Prius.
Exactly. You're going to be thinking you got this awesome new car and you've never seen anyone with it before. And then you get it and then it's everywhere because now it is in the front of your mind.
Yes.
When we use this language, I am fat, I am ugly, and it's here. It's not something we verbalize often, right? It is the narrative in our head. It begins to set the stage. And what we think about the most, we get back from the world.
Does
that make sense?
How is it possible that people still don't understand that? To me, it's like a science, and I don't know if it is or not. But I feel like If you have ever spoken those negative words to yourself, you feel bad. So if you feel bad when you're speaking the words, why are you speaking the words? Now, I'm not perfect at
I
it.
think that, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I think it's because people often believe it's the truth.
Yeah, they do.
Do you get what I mean? It's not
Yes.
like the truth hurts. So of course I feel like shit. I'm talking bad about myself, but at the same time, I believe it's true. I'm not just saying I am fat or I am ugly. I'm saying I believe those things to be true.
Do you
And
feel
that,
like people, Kendra, I didn't mean to cut you off, honey. I'm sorry.
no,
It's a
do it.
little
Do what we
delayed, so
do.
bear with me. Do you feel like people have heard that voice, that narrative from someone else, childhood, partner, and so they heard it for so long, they began to believe it? Where does that negative belief come from? Where does that feeling more comfortable saying I'm fat and embracing the negativity come from?
Sure. I mean, most limiting beliefs come from our childhood, our adverse childhood experiences. It comes from abandonment and neglect. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be extreme. You know, I just watched the Dr. Gaber Mate's Wisdom of Trauma documentary, and I really loved the way that they talked about trauma, because they talked about trauma not as the specific thing that happens to you, but the experience you have internally as that thing is happening to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the same thing could happen to me and I not have the same emotional and mental response as you. So now trauma is not war and famine. It is whatever we as individuals do not have the coping skills to deal with. And so we have these experiences, and as a result, we form limiting beliefs. If it's, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, you know, I'm ugly. And then we believe them to be unilaterally true, because as children, when we formulate these beliefs, we're not using our prefrontal cortex and our rational brains to be like, I really don't know if that's factual, right? Like, we're not doing that. So we formulate this belief as a child, and it serves to protect us. 9 times out of 10, these limiting beliefs actually serve to protect us, because it serves us to go against ourselves rather than our caretakers, because we need our caretakers.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's a survival mechanism, really.
100%.
But as we progress as adults, these limiting beliefs become far more destructive and way less effective.
It's interesting to me because I'll just use my example. I grew up with a lot of negativity. And so I don't know why, but early on I was blessed enough to understand it and use it as a survival skill, but know in the back of my mind that wasn't true. I didn't understand how to wrap my head around it, but I always had a core belief, even at a very early age, that the shit that I was being told was absolutely false. However, you don't have the ability to cope when you're 4, 5, 6 years old and rationalize it like you do as an adult. The problem, I feel like, is that we just buy into it. It becomes the easy way to either protect ourselves and build walls up, but it just completely limits us. It paralyzes us.
Exactly, because if you think about, I mean, just from like a functioning perspective, let alone like achieving wealth and success and living a fulfilling life, like just from a functioning perspective, the amount of energy it takes from you to operate from that limiting belief, to be outside of your values, to attract people who suck the energy out of you. I mean, like when we are not in our values, we are naturally going to be pulling in and attracting things that are going to be pulling that energy out of us. Yes. Always. That's how it works. So when you hear people are like, man, I just feel energized. I feel like I can do this. And like before it was really hard and they couldn't see it, but then they do. To me, that process, when we peel back the layers, is that I'm getting back in alignment with my values. I am being mindful of the things that I'm consuming and watching and the stories that I'm making up. I am participating actively in my life. I'm less analytical and more in the doing portion of my life. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And I think I wanted to let you know, we had a lot of people before we went live ask, their point of reference is, well, of course, my job is not who I am, because they thought about the what we do part from a vocation
Exactly.
perspective. And I find that so fascinating. They're like, well, that's, because I'm an XYZ worker doesn't mean that's me. But that's really not specifically what you're talking about.
No, but here's the important thing to keep in mind when it comes to work. The average person spends 91,250 hours at work in their life. And just about the only thing that we do more of than work is sleep. Yeah. So while you are at work, the work that you do, the relationships you have, your purpose, your meaning, the way you function in the world, your work actually has a significant impact. So if you take into consideration, like when people get laid off, why does that hurt so much? Because our work is a part of our identity, our level of achievement, the way we earn money, the way that we show up in the world, the service we provide, the impact we have is often associated with our vocation and the work we do. So I think it's really common for people to make the association with the language. And even when I texted you this topic, I was like, I don't know how to clarify.
I understood what you were going for, but I knew that people would think the same way, because back in the day, I would have thought the exact same thing. But thankfully, I've had a lot of time with Kendra Davies and a lot of other amazing beings. So I know that's not what you're specifically talking about. But what do you say to people who say, but work is where I get my happiness from?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I think that it really comes down to like everything is okay, and as long as it's not in excess. If all of my value and function in the world is measured by what I do for work, I mean, the reality is that you can be fired. Businesses can fail. Tragedy can happen. Having those external measures in place to dictate your happiness it's a real fine line, right? Like, what we know about happiness, while it is subjective and we all define it differently, I, for instance, have achievement as part of my identity. Like, achievement is something that I value, right? Like, I love having goals. I love smashing those goals. I love showing up in the world and like doing what I love. And achievement is part of my identity. A large part of my achievement comes from work. So I feel like it comes down to tempering. Like, am I looking to my work to be my sole source, right? Yes. Like, is it my sole source of value? Am I showing up as the mom I want to be, the friend I want to be, the daughter I want to be, the partner I want to be? Like, how am I showing up in the world as a whole person? When we get tied up to any one thing representing everything that is important to us, it's our social life. It's where we get the value for achievement or accomplishment, right? It could be anything. When one thing represents all of our value, that's a dangerous position to be in. The external stuff is just not who you are. It's just not. And when we lose connection to ourselves, to our identities, and to kind of the values that drive us, I feel like that's when it starts to feel gross. Like, there have been times in my life where, I have been very, very poor, and then I am not. And then there's these moments where I cross over and I'm so used to not having that I have. And then it goes into excess, and then it's just materialism. And then I have all the accumulation of things, but I don't feel fulfilled or satisfied.
You feel empty, right?
Yeah. So it's like anything in excess can be tricky, but I don't feel like just identifying with achievement and like being driven at work, I don't believe that in and of itself is bad. I think that if any one thing in your life represents all of the value, if it's your children and that's where you get all your value, even that is a slippery slope.
Oh, we did it. All right, I have to ask you, because I have a lot of friends who say these words, and it always hurts me to the core. So I want to give them some tools, because I know a lot of people that feel this way. They'll say, I am a failure. Failure seems to be one of those words that is, this is me. This is who I am. I am a failure. Therefore, I have set everything up. Everything. My whole point of reference is that no matter what it is, good, bad, or indifferent, I am a failure at it, at life, at work, at whatever it is. How do people begin to chip away at that? Are there any tools? Is there any kind of recommendation or mindset that you can help them with? Because I know a lot of people, including people very close to me, that carry that around, and I just see how much it weighs on them and impacts everything they do.
So I think first and foremost, like the reason why we chose this topic is to be able to discern what we do, what we think, and how we behave from who we actually are as a human being, right? Like I can be an awesome human and make a very tragic mistake. I can be a great employee and have a bad week or a month. Do you get what I mean? And I'll behave outside of my values, and I'll do things that are not aligned and out of character, right? When somebody comes to me and says, I am a failure, what I am ultimately hearing is that they had a deep desire to achieve or do something. That could be anything from heal a relationship, write a book, change a team, start a business, like whatever. They had a deep, deep desire to achieve something. And when it didn't work, it is conceptually easier if we have something to blame. And if you're going to blame the outside stuff, that makes it real difficult to work out. But if I get to be the failure, if I get to be the cause of all of it, then I can take responsibility. Here's the thing, though. It's like a double-edged sword. It's a real bad trick, because now I become solely responsible for all of the bad. But how can I be a failure and be responsible for the good that exists? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we think conceptually that we're making it easier because now I have something to blame that I can control. I can change me, right? So I take it all on. But I really believe that that comes from protection. You know, we have a deep desire to do something, it doesn't work. And then from that pain, that disappointment, that, grief, we internalize and we say, it's got to be here. You know, I had the means, I had the support, I had the resources, you know, I made these decisions. The other half is what we believe failure is. You know, if we've learned anything from technology, anything at all, it's that learning to fail forward is the sweet spot. How do I fail fast? How do I fail and learn?
Yeah.
And to me, first of all, you are not a failure, right? You did something and it didn't work. You can do a different thing. You can think a different thought. You can challenge yourself in a different way. We have to shift the way we define failure. If what you're saying is, you know, well, I'm 35, I'm 25, I should know what I want. My life should be a certain way. I feel like we're probably comparing everybody's outsides to our insides, and that's never going to line up.
No.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
So good.
So it really depends on how you look at it. But I think that ultimately we need to change the definition of failure, because it's not serving you. And we also need to get way, way more honest, because we're going with failure as an easy way of getting around having to talk about being disappointed. Like when we try something and it doesn't work, and we muster the hope is so heavy and hard to have sometimes. And when we get it and we put forth effort to try a new thing, to put ourselves out there and give our gifts to the world, and it doesn't go the way that we want, it can be devastating.
Yes.
It can be devastating and not be who you are. You can experience disappointment. You can look at the situation and see where you could have done better or different next time. You can. It does not have to be who you are.
Yeah. And I get to work on that. And I think, like, I can share my experience was I had lots of limiting beliefs growing up, and I had to figure out what they were through therapy. Mine was all therapy based. I had to figure out where that came from, and then why I allowed it to continue to define me. I felt like for me personally, those limiting beliefs were defining me and they were holding me back.
Yeah.
And I was getting comfortable, and then I was wallowing in it. And then it became a way of life and almost a crazy comfort zone that God, it's so
Yeah.
much better for me not to take a risk. At least I know the mud and the pigs I'm rolling
Yeah,
around.
man.
But it's once you realize that you have the power to say, to be able to separate what we do from who we are, it changes the way you look at absolutely everything, everyone, every relationship, everything you do. And there is no way but up. Are you still going to have issues? Are you still going to have fault things that you
Yeah.
Yes, but you're still going to continue to build a foundation of, hey, these are separate. This is separate. And so
And
that's
for
why I love
those that really struggle, I invite you, like many of the mentors of my past, you know, like your misery is refundable. Like at the end of the day, if when you look at it, because sometimes we actually have evidence, you know, like I made some really shit decisions. I hurt a lot of people in my life, especially as an addict. Like I know I did some damage. I have to live with that every day, right? Like there's some things, like sometimes we have evidence that might imply that we are in fact bad. At the end of the day, I have to look at it and I have to be able to take responsibility for my actions. I have to be able to be willing to make amends. And if I can't make amends directly, I got to be willing to change the way that I live and show up so I can make a living amends. So I don't go to that one person and say this one thing. I look at the world and say, I will never do that again. Moving forward, I will do this.
Yes.
This is how I will show up. I will not lie, right? I will not steal. I will not hit people. I will not manipulate. Like being able to talk about what we will do and make that living amends, get back into our values, then we can reshape the belief. Because if you look at your life and you're like, listen, I feel like I got evidence. Like, is it useful?
Right.
Is the way you are thinking and approaching your life useful? Do you actually feel better? Do you feel motivated? Do you feel driven? If the answer is no, then it's worth trying something else.
Yes.
What if you just stopped saying, I am a failure, and you changed the language to, I tried something and it didn't work.
Just
I
that small
can
thing.
learn another way. I can look at the mistakes that I made and learn from them.
So powerful.
Turn it around. And I feel like sometimes painful stuff, suffering and grief, these things are often heavy and they just require support. You know, we're not meant to deal with these things alone. I remember when the market crash was 2008.
Yes.
Like there were so many people who just went right into survival mode. Lots of entrepreneurs and businesses closed, lost their businesses, or just struggling to stay afloat. But these folks, they went into survival mode and they didn't get out for decades now. Do you get what I mean? So like,
I totally do.
recognizing that sometimes the mindset you needed to survive and to get through a hard time, if you don't do the work to really challenge it and bring yourself back and get grounded again, you're applying that survival mindset to how you live. And that will never equal thriving. That will just mean survival. That means you stay breathing and above ground. That's it. No wealth, no success. That's not the requirement for survival. Wealth, joy, success, those things require us to do more work.
And with that, Kendra Davies, tell us how they can find out more, learn more from you. Who wouldn't want to learn from her? Jeez. Learn from her, grow with her, let her do her magic with you, which is more than just magic. It is just miraculous. What's the best way for them to reach you?
So you can go to stellarlifecoaching.com. You can explore all of my services that I have available, from one-on-one coaching, speaking, and also my online group coaching program that is launching July 1st.
Woo! What's the name of it?
And then we Evolve. So this is, if you're interested and curious about life coaching or working with me, it is my 101 intro to the work. What we do, how we do it. It's the baseline foundation. So I highly recommend it if you are curious. Slay is my online goal setting workshop. It's 100% self-paced. You can access that from the website. And then obviously, if you haven't heard and you are a lady, we have the Phoenix retreat. So this is my all-inclusive, luxurious women's retreat. And we did get word that Bali is getting moved due to travel restrictions for COVID. So I'm working right now on building the retreat to Costa Rica.
Woo.
So fingers crossed, we'll be going in September. So
Fantastic.
Call me.
Call me. Go to stellarlifecoaching.com, or you can find Kendra on all social media platforms. Thank you. What a great show. So many of you need to listen to this message over and over again, because I hear you with your defeatist attitude and it's a learned thing. And I just feel for you. My heart aches because I know you live in that all the time. And
there's a way out.
There
really
way
is.
out. Remember, separating what you do from who you are. This is big. Thank you, Kendra. You were amazing. Love you to pieces.
Thank you, darling.
Mwah. Come back next week. We'll see you guys soon. StellarLifeCoaching.com. Kendra Davies.